the best line in the history ever. When things get too deep, people drown. So no crazy people ever went off the shallow end. Am I right? No. Hey, small group season is here. We love small groups. Small groups are our bread and butter here at Thrive. It's how people really get connected and grow in their faith and take things to the next step. So if you are not yet part of a small group, there is a small group ready for you. There's a beautiful group of people in the back at the Next Steps table. Or if you're watching online, you can just let us know that you want to be a part of a group. We've got online-only groups. You can join a local group if you're local. But we will get everybody plugged in. We want to help you get connected to a small group community. It's just so important to our faith and important to what we do as a church. So thank you for being a part of that. If you came in to the room physically, there's a couple of these on your seats. We'll continue our Pick Two challenge. So just pick two people to invite to come with you. And if you were invited this week by somebody, well, they cared about you enough to invite you to come be a part of something that they love, and that's pretty awesome. So thanks for being here and being part of that. Small groups, again, huge part of what we do and who we are, and so I can't urge you enough to be a part of one of those and to get connected to that group. Another big part of who we are is the do-good side of everything that we do, that we want to serve and love our community to the best of our abilities. And one of those ways is through our shoe project, which we've got another shoe project coming up next month I'm very excited about. We've got Mecosta Elementary that we're going to provide a pair of shoes to every kid in that school and bless them and bless their families. It's okay, we can celebrate that. You don't have to quietly celebrate that. A little interaction is A-okay with me, all right? So we got a letter, a card in the mail this week from Aaron King, who's a principal at one of the schools that we gave shoes to earlier this year. And Aaron has the most beautiful, illegible handwriting I've ever seen. I struggled to work through it, but it's so beautiful. Like, I wanna love it. But then I also want to read it, and I couldn't marry the two together, so I had Michaela help me. No, she started writing this letter, and she started like I do, right here, and then ran out of room and kept going, and then ran out of ink, and so she switched colors, and it's just a beautiful letter. I want to read it to you, but I'm going to read this version because I can read this version. It says, "Dear Thrive Church, I started and stopped writing this card for more than 3 months now. I begin, and I'm so overcome with the power of God and what He's doing through you. I'm overcome watching the way you have changed lives. You impacted not only our students, but our staff as well. Praying so much for this day and praying so much since then, I knew God would, and I know God is moving. I was not prepared for how much, and I'm once again in awe of Him and what He's doing. Thank you for being obedient to His call on your life. Thank you for looking outside yourselves and to the kingdom, pouring into it for eternity. Being the hands and feet is so much more than donating money or resources or time. It's Jesus living in you. The Holy Spirit is alive and well. Your worship pastor looks great in skinny jeans." Oh, wait, no, that's not in there. You were and you are an example to me of everyone. You were and are an example to me and everyone around you. Thank you for following who you are called to be in an uncertain world. I am so proud to be a follower of Jesus with you. In Him, Aaron King. How stinking cool is that? Like, it's so good and such an encouragement, and it's just a reminder that what we do has so many impacts beyond the literal, has so many impacts beyond what we can see and what we can feel. And yes, giving a kid a pair of shoes is really awesome, and you see them smile, and that's exciting, but to know that that joy carries with them for years to come, that joy carries to their teachers, that joy carries to their families, that joy carries to the community. Like, that's the gospel in action. That's Jesus' love in action as we care for people and as we look to care for the needs of our community. It's just such a big piece of who we are, and I'm so thankful for you guys for making that possible. So thank you for doing that. I just love that line at the end. I love it. Thank you for following who we are called to be in an uncertain world. 2020, 2021, 2020, as I call it, it all blurs together. There have been struggles. Yes, we all know that. There's ups and downs, and there's twists and turns, and you think you get life figured out, and then life says, surprise, like there's something new, and we get picked up and pulled down and picked up and pulled down, and there are circumstances all around us, and there are great joys, and we get really excited, and there's really big heartache, and we lose people we love, or we lose a job that we love, or the pressures of life just push on us, and the joy is robbed straight from us, and the world's divided, and we can't even pick a Jeopardy host that we all can agree on, and like there's all these things going on. We're going to get there eventually. I promise we will. I think. It's easy to lose heart. It's easy to just want to throw in the towel and say, God, I don't see you in any of this. Where are you at? I'm asking questions. I'm trying to find you. I just don't see you. And it's so easy to want to just take that white flag and throw it up in the air. And sometimes we don't just want to throw it up in the air. We want to like do flips with it and get our color guard skills on and baton twirling. It's like, I'm not just going to give up. I'm going to aggressively give up. Like, you are going to see me come, and that's how much I'm ready to just quit. It's so easy when things get hard to just say, I'm done. I'm done. I actually joke with my kids all the time. When things get tough, just quit. That's the answer. Just quit. And Liam is the loudest eye roller I've ever witnessed in my life. And he looks at me and he just rolls and he's like, yeah. I know that's not the answer. Yeah, of course that's not the answer. But that's where we all feel sometimes. I just want to quit. I want to give up. And some of you are there right now. And some of you have been there, and some of you know what's coming because you've been around life long enough to know that we go up and we go down, and there's good and there's bad and there's ugly. And when you build a faith based on that, when you build a faith based on how you're feeling and how your circumstances are going, it's a really, really fragile faith. Because all it takes is one bad circumstance, and the whole thing comes tumbling down. And rather than going, God, I see you, or God, where are you, and even asking the question, we just go, that was enough. I'm done. Like, that's so often the story that I find. And I've been there myself. In the last couple of weeks, I've been there where I'm just like, what is going on? I spent a week fasting and praying 2 weeks ago for 4 specific things. I had my list of 4 things that I was rattling through all day long in prayer. All day long. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. Rocking through those. And I'm pretty sure God heard me the first time, but because I'm me, I repeated them all day, every day for these 4 days. And it was a beautiful experience. But at the end of that week, one of those prayers was answered, and it was frustrating because it wasn't even the answer I wanted. It was the opposite answer. And I'm like, I literally wrote, I've got this little prayer journal that I do every morning to pray for our church, to pray for you guys, to pray for what's going on. And I just wrote, God, where are you? Period. And I listed those 4 things again as if he didn't hear me the first time. And I'm like, God, where are you? And when your life and your faith is based on seeing God right now, right here, your timeline, your expectations, your demands, it's just a really fragile way to live. Right. It's just a really fragile way to go about life because there's struggle. There's ups and downs. I've been praying for a building for this church for years, and we don't have it yet. And it's easy to go, okay, God, where are you? What are you doing? But I know that he's preparing us, and I know that he's getting us to a place where he's ready, and he's getting the right space ready. And I know that with everything that I have, but I feel quite the opposite sometimes. Like, God, where are you? It's so easy to get that frustration. And when things get tough, what do you do with that? How do you move forward in that? And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to start preparing ahead and looking ahead. And so 2 weeks ago, after I worked through that, I flipped open our Core 52 book, which we're working through. We're in week 51 out of 52, by the way, so we're almost done with that book. But it literally started by asking the question, what do you do when things don't go your way? Now, fair enough. Okay, God, I see what you're saying. Like, you're telling me to, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing. And so that's where we're going this week. There are really, really great moments of joy that launch your faith and propel you. You have these God moments where it's like, oh, the heavens open up and you can feel God and you can see God and everything is awesome and it's so great. And then the next day, something really bad happens and that we just start riding this roller coaster of life, this roller coaster of faith. I'll encourage you again. That's why a small group is so important. To have people to do life with. When you're celebrating the greatest celebrations of your life, you've got a team of people who are there ready to celebrate with you. And when you're struggling, you've got a team of people who are ready to help pull you through and help give you a shoulder to lean on or an arm to just lift you up and help you carry forward when you don't have that strength on your own. And where we're at this week is we're looking in the book of Hebrews. And it's a book, a letter that Paul wrote. Hebrews, if you're flipping open a Bible in front of you, is one of the hardest books to find. It's toward the end of the New Testament. It's hard to just flip there. But it's toward the end of the New Testament, or if you've got the YouVersion Bible app or whatever Bible app you've got, if you want to get there, it's much easier to just type in Hebrews and there it pops up. But Hebrews is where we're at. And Hebrews, Paul is talking to a group of people who knew the story of Jesus, who heard the promise that not only did Jesus die and give us life, but he's coming back. And they were so excited that Jesus was coming back that they sold everything that they had. And they waited patiently. And then impatiently. And then a little less patiently. And they're just fighting this fight of going, Jesus, you said you're coming back. Where are you? Where are you at? What's going on? And so Paul is writing to these people, and he's saying something very, very important for those moments when you just feel like giving up, when those moments when you feel like your faith has got nothing left to give, when you just don't have anything in your tank. Just let me back up for a second. In history, like if you read through Scripture, those are the moments that God uses more than any other moment. Okay? So don't lose heart in those moments because God does something really cool in those low points. He brings something great out of that. But this is what Paul says to the Hebrew people. This is chapter 12, verse 1. He says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Some of you grew up in a church and you've heard this over and over and over again. But put yourself in the context of these people who have given up because they heard that Jesus was going to do something and he hasn't done it yet. And he's saying, you could sit there and pout and have a pity party and live your worst day ever and be happy that you're living your worst day ever. Or you could do something about it. Or you could look at it and go, we've got more ahead of us. That where I'm at now is not where I have to stay. That the best is yet to come. There is more coming. There is more around the corner. He's saying don't sit idly when you're feeling these trials, when the testing comes, when the persecution comes, when difficulties of life come. Don't just sit there, but press on. Like lean into it and lean forward knowing that there is something more around the corner. You've got to move forward. We say as a church, growing people change. You've got to grow. You've got to change. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. Like you've got to take a step forward. You've got to take a step to seeing who Jesus is and trusting that if he said he's going to come back, he will come back. If he says that you will have life with God, you will have life with God. You trust in what he says. And I love this word picture in here. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. To throw off the sin that's holding you back, that's got like this death grip on you as you're trying to run. If you've got a small child or you've ever had a small child and you know what it's like when they grab your leg while you're trying to walk, you know what I'm talking about? Where you end up just kind of doing this zombie leg thing to try to get through the rest of the kitchen because you still have dinner to prepare, but you've got one who's just hanging on your leg. Maybe you've experienced that in your life. That's what he's saying. You've got this thing that you're holding on to. You've got this sin. You've got this issue that you're fighting against. And you've got to get rid of that. If you're going to move forward, you have got to strip that layer off so you can actually run and not just drag around like a zombie coming back from a really terrible, cheesy movie. Because let's be real, all zombie movies are really cheesy. And you can disagree with me, but you're wrong. They're really bad. But you've got to strip that away. You've got to be able to identify that and let go of that and that sin that's holding you down. That when we hurt, we find the world's worst temporary pleasures and we claim them as if they're our own to make us feel better. You got to let go of that and look to the long term. Look to the picture of what Jesus has prepared. Strip that away and move forward. To move forward and to know that, he says, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, that you're not living in a bubble. There are people watching, and when there are eyes on you, what are you showing them? How are you living? Are you living in such a way that shows them that you care about something more, something that's yet to come? Or are you just living like everybody else, and we're just riding the wave, and we're just hoping to get through today with no forward look or no hope that Jesus is coming back, or that Jesus cares for you, or that he gave himself for you? Fight the battle that's hanging on to you. Fight it. Get rid of that so that you can move forward. Whatever that is for you, you each got your own things. We each have our own things. Fight that battle. Now, I'll be really careful when I say that because in 2021, where we're at now, you got to be really careful in what battles you're fighting. Because when you start fighting against other people, things get really messy. And when you start fighting against other people inside the church, people start losing faith and people start losing hope. And in particular, people outside of the church see a group who's divided against themselves. And why in the world would anyone want to be a part of that? That doesn't do any good. Fight the battle that God is calling you to fight in front of you. Fight the battle that's holding you back from growing in your faith. Fight that. That's worth fighting. That is something that is worth fighting about. Oswald Chambers says this: there's a call to spiritual perseverance, a call not to hang on and do nothing, but to work deliberately, knowing with certainty that God will never be defeated. To live confidently in the fact that God will never be defeated. In light of the future, in light of the fact that Jesus promised he's coming back, we can move forward because this is not the end. This is not where I have to stay. I can actually move forward. There is hope beyond today. There's hope beyond tomorrow. There's a hope that Jesus is coming. And we look to the end. To the end, that's where we're going next week. Next week we're talking about the end times. I mean, we're going there. So let's talk about it and let's be real about it and know that Jesus has promised he's coming back. And so we live in light of that, knowing that there is a hope beyond today. We're going to press into that. And Paul, in the way that he does so beautifully, he lists these beautiful things over and over again where here's the battle you get to fight. And then he doesn't just leave you hanging. If you hang on for a verse or two after that, he tells you how. And he goes on, so he's in verse 2 now. He says, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. He defeated sin. He defeated death. He's sitting with God. He has done what he said he was going to do. So rather than being stuck, focused on the battle you're in, maybe the answer is you look ahead to the battle that's already won and what's yet to come. You look to the finish line first instead of watching every step and hoping that maybe eventually one of them will be better than the next. Look ahead to the future. Look ahead to the promise of what's to come. Your eyes on Jesus. Turn your attention toward what is promised and what's given, because this is the reminder to these people who are waiting so patiently, but not patiently at all for Jesus, because Jesus was promised and he showed up. And then Jesus made promises about the life he was going to live and the death he was going to have, and he did it. And then he left them with the promise saying, I'm not done, I'm coming back, and I'm preparing a new heaven and a new earth. Trust that he's coming back. You can trust that because he's delivered. It's not based on our ability to have positive circumstances now. It's on the fact that Jesus has promised a way forward. And he's going to come back and he's going to return that. I've got several different areas in my life where I'm like, okay, right now I could use some positive circumstances where things are not the way that I would hope that they would be. My son Liam, many of you have heard this story this year already, but a few months ago was diagnosed officially with Crohn's, and so we've been working on a treatment process with him. He's been struggling for years, but we finally are able to take some steps forward. And this last week, I got to go with him to U of M for his treatment, and it was the first time that I've actually gotten to sit in the room with him during this. And I'm sitting there with him, and it was both really heartbreaking and really exciting. Because it's hard to watch your kid struggle with something. It's really hard. But to see his face when he knew what was about to happen, that there's hope, that there's something coming that's going to help him, and he just had this huge smile, and this huge, like, you could see the relief all over his face. And I'm like, that's a beautiful thing. And then they pull out this needle, and everything changes. And life gets real. And it got real quick, let me tell you what. But I did what I do, and I just tried so hard to distract him by the things that I know he loves and the things that would bring him joy. And so we talked about some of his favorite things. He's in soccer, and he loves it. And so we start talking about soccer, and he loves all things animals, like all things. He could tell you all about animals in every type and what they eat and where they live and their lifespan and all. Like, he'll pick it. He'll tell you about it. And he looked at me and he said, Dad, if I were an animal, I would be a cheetah. And I'm like, cool, bud. Like, where did that come from? But okay, cool. And I started to tell him what I would be. And then I had this flashback moment where I'm like, oh, bud, you're in for a good story. I would be a tiger. And he's like, why? And then I flipped through my phone for some old photos, and get ready. This is the sexiest picture you've ever seen in your life. I showed him this. And I put the grr in tiger. Like, come on, that's a good looking man right there. Like, and so I told him this story about when I was in this production way back a long time ago of the Jungle Book. And then it was a really fun moment. And then he kind of looked at me and did his eye roll thing, like, okay, Dad, cool. I would be a cheetah. And I'm like, okay, good. Let's make this about you again, huh? Like, it was so good. It was such a good moment. But he's like, no, here's why. And he proceeded to list off all of these things about cheetahs. And he pulled it back to the soccer conversation we were just having. He said, Dad, cheetahs can run up to 70 miles an hour. Did you know that? And I'm like, I did know that. He's like, but did you know they can't run long distances? And I said, yes. And then he proceeded to tell me about why they can't run long distances, because their heart is disproportionately small for the size of their body. And so when they run long distances or when they run fast to catch their prey, if they can't catch it quickly, they have to give up. Otherwise, they will die. And I think in our faith, sometimes our heart is disproportionately small for the race we're trying to run. Where the greatest thing you could ever do is, instead of trying to avoid the things that you need to attack or the battle that you have to push your way through. In fact, maybe the greater way is to figure out how to grow our heart and how to let God work inside of that so that you have the strength to get through it. And then as you battle, it grows and it grows. And the next battle that comes, you have that much more confidence because you made it through the last one. And the next one comes and you have that much more confidence because you made it through the next. And you grow your faith and you develop into something that's not based on circumstances, that isn't based on feeling great today, but it's based on the fact that God has brought you through some pretty incredible stuff and he's not done yet. That's what he's talking about. That's that faith that challenges and strengthens our heart, and it confirms us, and it develops a real faith, like a real faith. Real, like I'm a real boy faith, like one of those types where you can all of a sudden stand, and you can stand confidently, and people look at you, this cloud of witnesses can see there is something different about you. And they ask why, and you get to share your faith with them. Or they see why, and you don't even have to open your mouth. You just live in such an irresistible way that shows that God is working in you, and you will not be shaken because he is not shaken, and that's where my source of strength comes from. That's the faith that he's calling us to live. And so when things get hard, focus on the finish line. Focus on what it takes to end this battle, to win the battle, and to be where we need to be. A developed faith is never based on circumstances. It's based on an unchanging promise that God has saved you and Jesus is coming back. And he's going to restore a perfect image of heaven and earth, and you get life with him. That's what we look forward to. That this little thing that we're trying to deal with right now feels heavy, but in the light of eternity, it's not that big of a deal. Because God is going to bring you through it, and God is going to bring peace at the end of it. There's a journey of faith that's not based on how we feel, but it's based on the path that Jesus has paved forward. In fact, my friends from Journey wrote a great song about faith. I'm sure it's about Jesus, I think. Don't stop. What's the next word? Oh, yeah, right. Everyone knows the song, right? Like, don't stop believing. Like, lean into your faith. If Journey can nail this, maybe we should too. I don't think they were talking about Jesus, but it's okay. Just claim it as your own, right? That's what we do. Don't stop believing. It's about shaking off the distractions so that we can keep our eyes on what's important. It's about figuring out how to let go of this stuff that's trying to pull me back and to see what's ahead at the end of the line. Sometimes we're wavering from side to side because it's real life, right? Like there's this path that Jesus has given us, and life is real, and we start swaying. But, and it's a big but, okay? Big but. Yes, I realize what I just said. It's a big but the race isn't done yet. So don't give up. Don't give up. The race isn't done. Sometimes you're in a ditch. You're at the bottom of the bottom, and you have never felt so low in your life, and you're ready to raise that white flag and just quit. But the race isn't over yet. Lean in. Don't give up. Sometimes you just got to army crawl your way through because your legs have given out and there's so much trying to hold you back that there's no way this is working anymore. Okay? Fight your way through it because the race isn't done yet. Sometimes you're dragging something along with you, but the race isn't done. So don't stop. Don't give up. Don't just let division around you hold you down. Don't let the sin that's trying to grab you hold you down. Fight through it because the race isn't over. And when you need a small group of people to help you and just grab you by the arm and carry you forward because you can't, do it. The race isn't done. They're there to help you. Grow your faith. Lean into it. We talked about this in the last couple of weeks in this series, but Paul in his book of 2 Timothy is at the end of his life. He is done. He knows it. His time has come. He's lived his life. He sees the finish line. He gets it. And he says something really beautiful in 2 Timothy 4. He says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. He knows he's reached his end, and he knows that every step that he has led him there has been one that has pushed him in his faith, and one where he has not given up because he knows the reality of Jesus, and he knows what's on the other side waiting for him. He knows that. And someday you're going to get to stand in front of Jesus and hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant, which, again, let's talk about this next week. Quick commercial break. We'll be back next week for that one. But well done, good and faithful servant. Like I can't wait to hear those words spoken. Well done. That you live in light of eternity. You live in light of what's ahead. So press on. Give it everything that you've got, not an ounce less. Don't quit. Don't give up because the race isn't over. Keep leaning in. And when things get dark and things get hard, find people around you who can help you see that light. And when you're stuck in sin and you're trying to find the way forward, look to the finish line and let Jesus help you. And when your heart is too small, lean on those little moments where God gives you strength and gives you strength and gives you strength to push ahead and to not give up because the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. If you grew up in a church and you've walked away from the church for some reason or another, and you're here today asking questions again, more than likely it's because you found something to lean on and it gave away. And you've got questions again. And I love that you're here. We exist for people who've given up on God, people who've given up on the church. Like, I want to help you work through that. And I want to help you see the Jesus who is actually there with you and who's going to give you the strength for tomorrow, who's going to help you in the future, who's going to give you a beautiful picture to look forward to. And if you're in a place where you've never accepted Jesus and you don't even know what that feels like, I really want to help you discover that. I want you to know the joy that comes from being able to look ahead and go, you know what, this is going to pass. And Jesus is right there, and he's going to help me. And I'm going to get to spend life with him. And if you're here and you're fighting a battle right now, you don't have to fight alone. Know that. You don't have to fight alone, but you've got to fight. You got to fight, and you've got to lean in, and you've got to grow your faith, and you've got to take steps forward, and you've got to take the next step, and then the next step after that, and then the next step after that. And so whatever that next step is for you, don't leave, don't quit watching until you've taken that next step of faith. If you're here in this room, in this building, we've got a spot in the back. Brian, another beautiful bald man in the back. Bald is beautiful, don't ever forget it. Brian's going to help you take your next step, whatever that may be. If you're ready to sign up for a small group, he's there. If you're ready to sign up to be a part of a team, he's there. If you want to get baptized, he's there. If you just have questions about faith, he's there. Like, that table exists for a reason, to help us take that next step of faith. And so I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to challenge you. Don't lose heart. Don't give up. Press on, because God has something great in store for you. The best is still yet to come. Let me pray. God, I pray over everyone here, myself included, and everyone watching online, whether watching today, next week, years down the road. God, I pray that you provide the strength that we need to get through every battle. And that as we battle, as we lean in, as we look to you for help, that you provide the help that we need. And as we look ahead to what is to come, a promise of life with you, God, that we would not lose heart, we would not become weary, but we would lean on you for strength, we would grow our heart, and we would take the next step forward and the next step forward, and we would fix our eyes on Jesus every step of the way. God, give us what we need. Strengthen us, grow us, help us to look more like you. God, I pray that you give us the strength to battle today with our eyes on what's yet to come, a life with you, and life where you fix all of the pain, all of the hurt, all of the broken. God, we look forward to that day. Grow our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. If you do have a next step to take today, don't leave without doing that. Send us a message if you're watching online. let us know. If you're here, stop by and see the Next Steps crew. They would love to help you with that. If you are not in a small group, there are a lot of different types that are launching right now that are getting ready to go this week and next week and in the next couple of weeks for some of the groups. There's regular small groups where you can just meet and talk and do life together and take what's taught on a Sunday and dig into it a little bit further and ask some good questions to dig further into your faith. If you are just starting and you've got questions and trying to figure out what in the world is faith and who is this Jesus guy and any of that, like there's a group for you where we want to help give you a safe place to ask those questions and to find some answers in those. If you've been a Christian your whole life, or you've been a Christian for a while and you're ready to take like a bigger, deeper dig into Scripture, there's a group for you. Whatever that group is, whether it's a men's group, a women's group, a regular group, a Next Steps group, like go talk to them. They will get you plugged in and part of that. If you want to serve on a team and really represent what it means to serve one, attend one, so that other people can have the opportunity to experience a church service and a community of people who love them, judgment-free, just love people. They will help you with that. If you need prayer for anything today, if there's a battle you're fighting and you just need somebody to come alongside you in prayer, there's a prayer table in the back, and there are a couple of great people back there who would love to pray with you and to just give you a little bit of hope today before you go. But whatever that is, God is not done. The race isn't over. So keep pressing forward, keep leaning in. I'm going to turn it over to our host to finish us out for this morning, and then we'll call it a day. What do you say? All right, here's Chris, everybody.